Hey guys, I'm John. Today we're going to go over how to install the lazy granite tile system in your kitchen. Before starting your project, it's a good idea to lay down a layer of plastic sheeting on your floors to protect them while you work. Make sure you secure the plastic sheeting to the floor so it won't move around as you walk on it. Use painter's tape so you won't be left with any residue on your floors when you remove it. To remove your existing countertop, locate the screws that are holding it on from the inside of the cabinets and remove them. They are usually located in the corners of each cabinet. Once all the screws have been removed, disconnect your plumbing from the sink. Once both of these steps have been completed, your old countertop should lift right off. Once you've removed your old countertop, you might notice that the wall behind the backsplash is unfinished. Clean off any dirt and finish this area before moving on. Start by taping off any appliances that you don't want to get paint on. After this is done, paint the wall to match the rest of the kitchen. If you have any cabinets that are over 36 inches long, it's a good idea to add something like a 2x4 from the front to the back for added support so that the plywood doesn't flex in the middle if something heavy is placed on it. To do this, simply measure the inside of the cabinet from front to back and cut a 2x4 to length. Once you have that cut, place it in the middle and secure it with screws from the inside so you don't see any of the screw heads on the outside of your cabinet. After removing your old countertops, your next step is to measure your cabinets and cut your plywood to fit. After cutting all of your plywood, set it into place to make sure everything lines up. Now that your plywood is cut to the proper dimensions, it's time to securely fasten it to the cabinets. While doing this, make sure the front edges of the cabinet is flush with the front edge of the plywood. The next step after you fasten your plywood to the cabinets is to cut the hole for where you want your sink. The easiest way to do this is to just take the granite for your sink kit and place it on your countertop wherever you want your sink located. Once you have your granite position, it's as simple as just tracing the outline, taking the granite off, and then cutting it out. Use a smaller drill bit to cut a hole along the sink line to give you a spot to insert your saw blade. Use a jigsaw to cut the hole for your sink. In order for the sink to fit into the hole, you need to cut about 1/2 inch outside of the line you traced earlier. Once your hole is cut, place the sink and granite into place to make sure everything lines up properly. After you finish cutting your sink hole and securing all the plywood to your cabinets, your next step is to cut your backer board. You do this the same way as you cut the plywood. Cut the backer board sink cutout the same way you did the plywood. If available, use a slightly larger hole bit to help ensure that everything will line up. Once you've cut all your backer board pieces and you've laid them down to make sure everything fits, it's time to secure them. Do this the same as you did the plywood. After securing your backer board to the cabinets, use the cement board mesh tape to cover any seams. Once you've attached the backer board to the plywood, it's time to start laying out and cutting your granite tiles. Use a Sharpie to draw a line where you need to cut on the bottom side of the tile. This is another area where you want to take your time and make sure that you have everything right. After you cut your tiles, make sure you rinse off all of the slag created by the cutting process. Set the freshly cut tile into place to make sure it fits properly. Once you get the fit just right, move on and continue cutting the rest of your tiles until they are all cut and in place. Doing an inside corner with the lazy tile system couldn't be easier. Simply take a 24-inch by 24-inch tile and lay it in the corner. Set a lazy tile on either side and miter cut the front bullnose of each to 45 degrees so everything lines up in the front. Once you get all of your tiles cut, you want to make sure you lay them down and dry fit them just to make sure everything's going to fit before you start mortaring them down. Once you have all of your tile fitting properly, it is time to start mixing your mortar. For this step, you'll need a 5-gallon bucket, a water supply, a bag of mortar, and something to mix it with. To ensure good results, make sure you follow the manufacturer's instructions for mixing. Once your mortar is properly mixed, it is time to start laying your granite. Always start with the sink and work your way out. Carefully spread the mortar around the sink, making sure not to get it anywhere it doesn't belong. When you're finished with the mortar, lay a thick bead of clear silicone around the lip of the sink. Carefully lay the sink tiles and position them. Make sure you use tile spacers so you have a consistent look throughout. Once you have it positioned where you want it, clean up any silicone that is seeped out into the sink basin. Now that your sink is in place, you are ready to install the rest of your granite. Spread the mortar on your backer board and carefully lay the rest of your tiles. After each tile, use a long level to make sure all of your tiles are at the same height. Remember to use spacers to keep the look consistent. Once all of your granite is in place and the mortar has completely dried, you are ready to apply your grout. For this step, you want to use a non-sanded grout. Mix it according to the manufacturer's instructions and apply it to all of your seams. To properly apply grout, you want to use a tool called a grout float. Always apply grout diagonally to make sure you don't pull the grout out of the seam as you go. After letting your grout set up for a few minutes, use a damp grout sponge to clean off any excess from your tiles. Once again, do this in a diagonal pattern. After you have cleaned up all of the grout lines with your sponge, you'll start to see a haze on your tiles as they dry. Use a microfiber cloth to clean off the haze. Once all of your grout has completely dried, you can install the backsplash. If you have any inside corners, cut 2 pieces of your backsplash at a 45-degree angle so they will line up in the corner. Once all of your pieces are cut, and you dry fit them to make sure they all fit properly, apply a bead of construction adhesive to the back side of the tile and a bead of clear silicone to the bottom edge of the tile. Set the backsplash pieces in place and clean up any silicone that seeps out. You can also use the silicone in the seams where each piece meets up with the next. If any silicone was missed before it dried, you can clean it off your tiles with a razor blade. Be careful and make sure you don't cut yourself. After all of your adhesive and silicone has completely dried, you need to seal your grout lines to keep them from staining. I recommend a product called Grout Lock, available anywhere lazy granite is sold. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for applying. Once you have sealed your grout, you need to seal your granite. Begin by cleaning your counter using a cleaner approved for natural stones. Once you have cleaned your granite, you're ready to seal it. For this, I recommend Stone Care International brand sealer, also available anywhere lazy granite is sold. As always, follow the manufacturer's instructions for application. The final step in your project is to enjoy your new granite countertop.